Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn how to heal yourself naturally. Now, our guest today is Kash, CEO of Educate, Inspire, Change. You can find out more about Khan's wonderful work in the world at educateinspirechange.org. Welcome, Kash Khan.
Thank you for having me, Catherine.
So, Kash Khan, what exactly is Educate, Inspire, Change?
Educate, Inspire, Change is, it started off as a Facebook page and a website, which was just designed to expand people's consciousness to kind of help people to think outside the box. So it was very much an alternative media website. It covers topics like nature, spirituality, motivational topics, even the news, science, space. So a wide range of topics. And over the years, I've kind of honed in more on self-improvement and this kind of field, because I found that over the years, by trying to inspire and educate people in what's happening outside the world, I found that the best thing to do is to help people to fix themselves, and then they can be the best they can be so they can change the world, you know? So the theory of the page is educate yourself, inspire others, and change the world.
That's a wonderful message, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's why I do my work as a medical intuitive, because when we become the happiest, healthiest versions of ourselves, you literally lift everyone around you, right? It's
Exactly.
not selfish to be the best you that you can, because everyone around you benefits from that. You can uplift the planet that way.
Yeah, 100%. One of the biggest issues people have is a feeling of powerlessness, and that they can't, for example, there's big issues with the environment or big political issues, and people have this feeling of powerlessness. But in fact, people are very powerful. You only need to change yourself, and then the world around you will change almost instantly.
Absolutely, yeah. Now, Kash Khan, I know that you were working on a documentary about plant medicine, ayahuasca and iboga. How did you get interested in plant medicine?
Through Educate, Inspire, Change, I'm always sharing content from a wide range of sources. So maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I would come across a lot of content related to psychedelics, DMT, and marijuana. And I came across people like Joe Rogan, Graham Hancock, all these kind of people who I looked up to, discussing their experiences on ayahuasca, on DMT, and it really kind of piqued my interest. So I started sharing content about it. And then because I've got quite a large following, around 2.5 years ago, a retreat in Costa Rica actually emailed me, inviting me to visit their retreat. Initially, because I had no experience with psychedelics, I had no real interest, and I never really felt called to it. Initially, I declined, but then about a year or a year and a half later, I started to reconsider their offer, and I emailed them back. And then in March of this year, 2019, I went to do ayahuasca for the first time.
Wonderful. And okay, now, and then you're getting ready also to go to work with Darren McBratney, I understand, and film an iboga ceremony, right?
Yeah, exactly. So during my ayahuasca ceremonies, one of the revelations I had was that the medicine was basically telling me that iboga was waiting for me, you know? So it was interesting that only a couple of weeks after that, Darren actually contacted me again out of the blue. So it's just funny how things seem to work and fall into place when you're in alignment with yourself and with the universe, you know? And I feel like a lot of that has been happening for me since my plant medicine journeys. People are coming into my life from nowhere that are just fitting in nicely. There's a lot of synchronicities that are occurring now, you know? And I'm really looking forward to going out to the iboga retreat on the 1st of December and meeting Darren and the rest of his team.
Absolutely. Now, I know Darren because I do medical intuitive readings for Darren McBratney for everyone who comes to his Global Nurture Project, so that he knows how to help them. And it's very interesting to me because they're the most fascinating people, true spiritual seekers, people wanting to be as healthy as they can be, people really wanting to, like yourself, to serve the planet. Now, Kash Khan, why do you think the world needs plant medicine right now?
Um, I think the world is people in the past, like the ayahuasca, as far as we know, has been around for thousands and thousands of years. But what's happened is since the introduction of industry and the kind of industrial revolution and the Western world kind of risen, psychedelics and plant medicines have kind of disappeared from the West, and it's only stayed in small regions like Brazil, Colombia, Costa Rica. So it's kind of gone underground, and then psychedelic substances have become banned across the world, you know. And it's I don't think it's any coincidence that since psychedelics have kind of been taken away from kind of our daily lives, and that the world's seen a rise in mental illness and suicide rates and drug use, bad drug use. So like for me, I think at the moment the world seems to be sick, and symptoms of a sick society are overflowing prison systems, are like hospitals that are full of mentally ill people, are people that are turning to sex and drugs and addiction as a way to deal with life. So the plant medicine for me, it kind of it realigns you with who you are. It brings you back to nature, and it reminds you what we are as a soul. Our essence comes to the front. So for me, when I take plant medicine, immediately when I came home, I started making daily changes in my life. I started treating myself better. Relationships became better around me. I started to rebuild broken relationships. I was able to forgive much more easily. And so my life has improved significantly. And as a result, I've felt the need to kind of spread plant medicine to others, because I see people that need it even more than I needed it, And I think it's just a great time to be alive, because I feel like this is the last generation before psychedelics and plant medicine is going to become a worldwide phenomenon. Just now it's in certain parts of South America and small areas around the world, but it's popping up in parts of Spain, parts of Portugal, parts of Europe, and I think it's a matter of time before it comes everywhere. And I think I'm quite glad to know that my kids will hopefully grow up in a different kind of culture where psychedelics are more accepted and plant medicine is more a part of culture.
That's a wonderful, wonderful explanation. Now, I know that here in the United States, the leading cause of death for Americans under the age of 50 is now drug overdose.
Yeah.
So we're facing really serious problems. And then about 12% of adults over the age of 12 are on some form of psychiatric medication.
Yeah, it's terrible. I mean, Graham Hancock said that the war on drugs is basically a war on consciousness, because what governments and big pharmaceutical companies are doing is they're normalizing and legalizing very harmful drugs like alcohol, like tobacco, like anything to do with antidepressant, painkillers, all these kind of very addictive substances that kind of take away your soul, if you like. And then they're banning substances like DMT, ayahuasca, and iboga from, it's called a category 1 substance, ayahuasca, which means not only is it banned for use in America, it's actually banned from even being researched. So they're not allowed to carry out scientific research, which is just ridiculous, And it makes you wonder as to why these substances, which clearly have very strong healing properties, I mean, you only have to look at the retreats that are around the world and look at all the people that come from them and listen to their stories, look at their stories of people healing their illnesses. There's stories of people curing their PTSD. There's stories of people who have heroin addiction that are coming out completely clean. So it really is, there's miracles happening everywhere, but it's being kept out of the mainstream media, which is why I feel so strongly, because I have over 3 million Facebook followers. I feel like I can have an impact in the world, and I feel like the plants are almost working through me. So when I was at ayahuasca, I was asking the plants to tell me my purpose, to show me why I'm here. And during that ceremony, a girl next to me she was like very strong. I think she was an intuitive like yourself. She was really channeling a lot of energy, and she kept saying to me that me and you together were going to change the world. And it was the next day when she told me that what she was actually doing was she was passing on a message from ayahuasca. So it was just funny how that was on the same night where I was asking to find my purpose, And she didn't know that I run a business which is educate, inspire, change, and the change part being change the world. So it just really gave me that strength and self-confidence to pursue my path, to create more video content, and to do more interviews like this, and to make documentaries, because I really want to bring the plants from the Amazon and bring them to the West. And I want to do it in such a way where people don't disrespect the plants. They have to be done under very special circumstances with the correct setting, and you have to have a really strong intention when doing these medicines. It can't be for recreational use or for fun. You need to really have a strong intention. So it's very important that when they're being introduced to the West, that they're being introduced in the right.
Yes, absolutely. So it's really important that they be introduced in the right way. So I know that I have great respect for Darren McBratney, who works with iboga, and iboga is the strongest plant medicine in the world. It's very grounding. You would never do iboga just for fun.
No.
Yes. Now, so Kash Khan, so what plant medicines have you personally experienced?
Today, I've only tried ayahuasca, although I've been to 8 different ceremonies. So I went to Costa Rica twice to a retreat called Rhythmia Life Advancement Center, which is not too far from Darren's retreat. And I had life-changing experiences there. And it's a bit different because a lot of retreats are generally quite small, whereas Rhythmia seems to attract a lot of people from the West. So you can see almost 60 to 70 people in a retreat at one time. So it's a very strong experience. You have a really strong feeling of community. And yeah, for me, it completely changed my life. But I saw people around me, and I can't find one person that had a bad experience overall. There are nights where you can have really hard nights and have to overcome some really hard things. But overall, everybody I spoke to came out feeling healed. They felt renewed, re-energized. They felt like they'd been given, a kind of a second chance, if you like. So seeing their stories and feeling how I felt, it's just a beautiful thing, and it's what's kind of made me think I want to try iboga. I want to look at other plant medicines, like San Pedro and whatnot. And yeah, I think it's just this year for me has been the most transformational year of my life, and I'm really excited to make these documentaries so that I can kind of share my story with everyone else.
Yes, no, from my perspective as a medical intuitive, I feel that as a human being, you are a soul who has a body. And I find that too often people are over-identified with material reality. They're over-identified with their ego persona, and they don't know who they are as a soul. That's why I'm about to publish my 10th book called, Reading the Soul, so that people understand what's going on. And I feel the benefit of these plant medicines is that they allow people for a brief period of time, at least, to connect to who they are as a soul and to see things from the soul perspective, which is how I pretty much see things all day long, stone cold sober. Now, Kash Khan, what exactly is ayahuasca?
So ayahuasca is completely natural. It's there's a shrub, so it takes the vine of a shrub, and then it combines it with another plant. And when these plants are separate, they have no impact. But when you combine them, the effects are life-changing. So one of the plants contains DMT, which is a hallucinogenic substance, and the other plant has an NAO inhibitor. So what that means is it allows the DMT to stay in your system for a very long time, which results in having really profound experiences. And it's just a magical medicine. And it's been around for around 5,000 years in the Amazon. They've been doing it, and legend has it that originally the shamans or the curanderos of the time were involved with other plant medicines, and that they were told how to create ayahuasca. And it was kind of like during another plant medicine, that information was given to them during a ceremony, So it's quite interesting how they received that information, and how since then it's been used as a medicine for thousands of years, for spiritual reasons and religious reasons in the Amazon. And now, obviously, people from the West are finding purpose, finding their, as you mentioned, they're reconnecting to their soul through the medicine, Because I think I was speaking to someone the other day about why is the world so disconnected from people, and someone was talking to me. It's quite interesting when you look at it. Is people are, since the invention of the rubber sole, so people are not walking barefoot on the earth anymore, And also females who have their moon cycle, their period, for millions of years, they would do this into the land. So they would bleed into the planet. It would go into the rivers, or it would end up in the grass or wherever it might be. Whereas for the last 100 years or whatnot, or 50 years since the invention of sanitary and rubber soles, we've almost lost touch with nature completely, and that feminine energy is also what's very strongly missing from the planet. And someone said to me that that's why there might be so much bloodshed on the planet, because the masculine energy is taken over from the feminine energy, and this is what results in wars and bloodshed. And so certainly, I know a lot of people doing ayahuasca, it reconnects them to their feminine energy. Ayahuasca itself is known as Mother Ayahuasca, so it's almost like Mother Earth, and it's a very strong feminine energy you get. So it reconnected me with my feminine side, and it also empowers women. That when they have this experience with Mother Ayahuasca, I think it gives women that sense of empowerment. It reminds them who they are and why they're here. And certainly, I know a lot of women who have reconnected themselves with nature and are, now thinking more about nature when they're doing things. And me as well, I'll walk barefoot more often than I used to. I'm even called to move away from where I live in Glasgow just now, which is a city in Scotland. And I have 2 young children, and I'm seriously considering moving away from here completely, just to be away from the cities, to be somewhere close to nature, somewhere close to people who do plant medicine, because I'd love that influence to be around my kids, and I'd love to be in that kind of energy space for myself. And I also think on a much bigger scale now. So when I was doing ayahuasca, I noticed the stars were sending me lots of love and energy when I was outside. And I asked the shaman, what was I seeing when the stars were dancing in the sky? And he said to me that when you heal, you're not only healing yourself, you're healing 7 generations before and 7 generations after. So when you're looking at the stars, that's your ancestors dancing in the sky, showing their gratitude for you healing. Because all the pain, all the poverty, or all the war, or all the hardship they went through, that continues karmically through the DNA, and it exists in me. So he says this cycle now ends with you, and your ancestors are dancing in the sky. So it's a really beautiful feeling, So now when I think of things I do, are decisions I make, I'm trying to think of 7 generations later. How will my life today impact my great-great-great-grandchildren who won't live to see me, And so if I can be in a country where we're in touch with spirituality, where we're in touch with nature, where we're in touch with the plants, it gives me a feeling of joy and happiness, because my impression is the cities aren't going to get much better. I think mental health problems, I think drug addiction is going to get worse before it gets better. There's going to be a period of darkness, and it's going to be especially around the cities and the large countries, like places like New York and London, and these places aren't going to get much better. So I feel like the medicine has called me to move away from the cities and to be closer to nature.
That's a really interesting answer. And I love that you talked about the 7 generations. As a medical intuitive healer with 26 years experience, one of the kinds of healings that I do is actually a 7-generation healing, where you call on 7 generations. So you have 50% of your mom's DNA, 50% of your father's DNA, your grandparents, you have 25% of each of your grandparents' DNA, and so on. So when you go back 7 generations, you go back to a little more than 1% of the source of your DNA. So this is your genetic programming. It's also your energetic and spiritual programming. And in the healing that I do, you can call on the souls of your ancestors who are there literally inside you and walking along beside you for your healing. And I also love that you talked about our disconnection from nature. As a medical intuitive healer, my garden is all organic. I recycle. I own a Prius. I'm 5 minutes from a beautiful park. I literally live in a forest. And I have so much compassion for people when they get disconnected from nature. The poet William Wordsworth said, getting and spending, we lay waste our powers. Little we see in nature that is ours. So when we get disconnected from nature, that affects your own biological rhythms. And by spending time in a garden, outside in the sunshine, even in the moonlight, it allows you to reset your natural circadian rhythms and become more in harmony, because that's how we're supposed to be. Now, what are the legalities of ayahuasca? Is it illegal
Um,
in the US and the UK?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, it's illegal in the US. It's definitely illegal in the UK. I think there are some loopholes in the US where I think some churches are allowed to serve the medicine under certain circumstances, but still, on a whole, it's illegal. And as I mentioned earlier, it's a Category 1 substance, so they don't even allow research to be carried out. However, I think because it is legal in certain countries in South America, and a lot of people are flocking to there from the States. I think it's a matter of time before big CEOs or political leaders take the medicine and they realize for themselves its healing properties, and they start to open up scientific research to the medicine. And it's a matter of time before it becomes legal. I mean, they're already legalizing marijuana across the US, so I think this is the first step. And I think in Colorado and maybe Denver or some other states, I'm not too sure, they're starting to legalize some psychedelic substances like mushrooms and psilocybin. So we're definitely at the start of a new wave, but I think ayahuasca is going to become legal in a matter of years, I would hope. I mean, the only reason why they wouldn't want to legalize it is if I think they wouldn't want us to heal, which is, I mean, people might argue that's one of the reasons why it's illegal in the first place, is because they don't want free thinkers. They don't want people who don't rely on medication to survive. I mean, all the medication they do give us, which is prescription medication, it's very addictive, and it creates them a lot of money. So it's $1 billion industry that ayahuasca would affect. So that might be the only reason why it doesn't become legal very quickly, and there might be a lot of resistance to it. But I think the power of the people will overcome that. I think the power of the medicine will overcome that. I feel like from the people I've spoken to this year, everyone feels like they're being called to arms. Everyone who's taken the medicine feels like ayahuasca is calling them and asking them to, asking them to kind of do the work for the medicine by bringing it to the West. I keep asking the medicine to shine its light through me, so to use me as a vessel, so that I can carry out its work for the medicine. And I feel like, I mean, only the other day I was in a room with David Icke, and I mean, interviewing him for my new podcast. 6 months ago, I wouldn't be seen dead on camera. I very much lived in my head. I had a lot of anxiety, although I was working hard and I was on the right path, but I had issues with public speaking. And what I found is when I'd done ayahuasca is I asked for it to show me my purpose and to give me the confidence to communicate my message. And ever since then, I found that I can talk freely on camera from the heart. And then when I was sitting in that room with David Icke, I was pinching myself, thinking I would never see myself in a room with David Icke, someone who I've watched his videos for years and years. He's a very interesting, fascinating guy, very intelligent, and I was there interviewing him. So I felt like the plants gave me that self-confidence, that self-love that I was lacking, to give me the confidence to kind of push forward. And even being here in this interview with you today, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the plants. I wouldn't be going to meet Darren in a few weeks if it wasn't for the plants. So. It really is. I feel like I'm very blessed and lucky to be here, and I'm just hoping that the plants will become more readily available so that everyone can experience what I've experienced. Because right now I kind of have to convince people to travel to the other side of the world to do the medicine, whereas I would like to think it will be in everyone's kind of hometown in a matter of years.
Yes, I know that I've done medical intuitive readings on naturopaths and also medical doctors who were going to the BOGA healing ceremonies because they wanted to understand, how does iboga work? Now, ibogaine, which is derived from the plant iboga, the medicine ibogaine, which is a pharmaceutical, is used as an antidote to opioids. So when the Western doctors and Western medicine wants to get people off the opioids, the prescription drugs that they've all become addicted to, they prescribe ibogaine. But ibogaine comes from iboga, which is a plant medicine which is natural and native to Gabon and West Central Africa. So I've definitely worked with doctors who are wanting to understand this, because iboga itself is you talked about ayahuasca being the feminine energy. Iboga is a very grounding energy. And, people who are addicts need to ground their energy. They need to be here now, get in their bodies, realize who they are as a soul and embrace their soul purpose. But iboga is also a natural healing remedy for addiction. And I certainly interviewed Darren and another gentleman who does iboga ceremonies in Canada about using iboga for helping people get off very serious drugs, including heroin, cocaine. And Darren McBratney tells me that the hardest drugs to help people get off are actually antidepressants. Just this afternoon, yesterday I was contacted by a gentleman in New York City, and he had been on antidepressants for a number of years. He wanted to get off of them, and he got off of them, and he felt terrible. Long story short, he's afraid of having to go back into a mental hospital, and he wanted a medical intuitive reading to understand, what can I do? Because he wants to be healthy and happy, but he's been on these antidepressants for so long. Yeah. So, people need natural alternatives to empower them to be healthy naturally.
100%.
Yeah, Kash Khan, one of the things that the plant medicines do that is so powerful that you and I agree on is they help people recognize that you are a soul. You're not your ego, you're not your body, you're not your emotions, unless you're 2 years old. You're a soul. So why do you think people can't just pray and meditate to make a spiritual connection? Because that's what I do.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think people can pray and meditate and do yoga, and there's lots of routes to this goal. But for me, I liken plant medicine to, if you look at the normal life, some illnesses can't be cured. Yeah, they require surgery, like a brain tumor or whatever. So just diet change or nutrition change and living healthy won't fix that. And I think that some people's problems can be so far gone where just for them to start meditating isn't going to fix the problem. Meditation is a discipline that takes a long time to do and master, and you have to be in the right place, and you have to have the right energy in the first place to be able to do it properly. So for me, what I found in plant medicine was it gives you, it's almost like cosmic surgery is what I experienced. So when I was in the plant medicine, ayahuasca, for example, I had several problems before I'd done ayahuasca. I had trouble, forgiving people. I was still carrying resentment in my heart. There was I wasn't able to be confident in myself with finding my voice and finding my purpose. So these issues couldn't be fixed overnight, and I wouldn't be able to do them. Even my day-to-day life, it would take me a long time to even start fixing those problems. But on ayahuasca, I felt like I had such a profound experience that at one point I was getting some kind of cosmic surgery from beings or light beings or aliens, I don't know, whatever you want to call them. And it was like they were working on my heart, they were working in my mouth, and they were working in my head, And they say that you store your years of trauma or abuse in your jaw. That's what they say, it's stored. And this can be not only from my life, but it can be from previous lives as well, from my ancestral DNA. So I felt like the ayahuasca was doing things that I would never have been able to do by myself. It was showing me the way, and it was healing me, and then it's up to me what I do afterwards as well. So ayahuasca only lasts for 1 night or 4 nights, depending how long you do it for. It's up to you, the person, to then do your daily practices and to keep the work up for the rest of your life. So it's not as if ayahuasca is a quick fix. It shows you what you need to see. It gives you the healing that you need, but it's then up to you to decide what you're going to do with that afterwards. So I would say it's a combination of the both. It's you working with the medicine that creates these miracle healings. It's not just one or the other. You have to work in synergy with the medicine, and I think that's why the medicine is so powerful. And I think so many people out there, they need that jolt that I needed, because you're carrying, we forget, look at our previous generations. Our grandparents went through wars. Some of them suffered in the Holocaust. Before that, there was World War I. Before that, there was, just poverty, extreme illness. It was very common for people to die at a very young age. Babies were being killed because families couldn't feed them. It was just horrible. We don't realize how much pain and suffering went before us. So this clearly is still in society as a whole. We carry it in our hearts, we carry it in our DNA. So I think the plant medicine, once one generation gets used to doing plant medicine, maybe future generations won't need to rely on it so much. They'll be in a much more happier, secure place where they all practice self-love, they all practice mindfulness, and that the plants will have served their purpose. And by that time, people can just rely on their own clear souls and their own hearts and their own minds to build a better world. Whereas right now, we're not doing a very good job on a big scale. So I think the plants are here to kind of show us the way. And once they've shown us the way, it's then going to be left up to us to carry on the work.
Yeah, great answer. Now, I wanted to share my own experience with iboga because I went to Costa Rica in August of last year, 2018. I'm 60 years old. I'm on zero medication. But Darren, because I do medical intuitive readings for Darren wanted me to experience the iboga so I understand what people go through. So it was very interesting. First of all, an iboga ceremony lasts for 30 hours. You would never do iboga just for fun. It's definitely something you do deliberately under the guidance of a shaman, a highly trained shaman such as Darren McBratney. But what was interesting from a medical intuitive perspective is when you first do the iboga, the iboga literally scans your body. It starts at your head, and it's almost like it's doing a whole medical intuitive reading. So it starts at your head, goes down to your feet and your toes, and then it comes back up, and you can feel it. It's a little bit of electrical feeling. So it's literally reading you, and the plant medicine has its own intelligence. So it heals what needs to be healed. In Gabon in West Central Africa, where iboga is raised naturally, it's used in rite of passage ceremonies. And little children, adults, teenagers, everybody's there doing the same thing, right? Wow. So what interested you in the iboga, Kash Khan?
Well, it's funny because I feel like it calls me rather than me looking for it. So during the ceremony, the same girl that was talking about me and her changing the world, she had went back to ayahuasca a couple of months later, and she actually gave me a phone call and said, I was during the ceremony, Kash, ayahuasca told me to pass a message on to you. So it's really kind of surreal how this happened, but she said that I feel like iboga is calling you, and this resulted in me then doing a little bit of research on iboga and finding that there was something there that was calling me for sure. I still have some unhealthy cycles or bad habits that I keep going back to, even despite doing ayahuasca. So I thought to myself that maybe I need this kind of more masculine energy, kind of the fatherly side of the medicine to kind of help me to deal with those issues. And then just by pure chance, like I mentioned, Darren emailed me, I think he messaged me on Facebook because he saw some of my videos about ayahuasca, And so I just thought, wow, it's like the universe was just coming together, everything was falling into place. I immediately said yes. And I told Darren that I'd be there on the next retreat, which is going to be in December. So, and since then, I've been doing a lot of research on it. I've been watching videos, but I also want to not have too many expectations about the medicine. I want to just kind of wait and see how it affects me as an individual, because I realize everyone's experience can be very different, So it's great to hear everyone's stories, but I'm going in with no expectations. I'm just going to have the intention to heal and to be reconnected to my soul, which I feel like I'm already there, but I think there are some issues that I need to still iron out. So I'm looking forward to seeing your reading as well, and also going to the retreat.
Yes, and my comment is, if someone's considering an iboga ceremony, I would recommend that they detoxify their body to the greatest extent possible they can before they do the ceremony. And I'm 60 years old. I'm on no drugs. I'm extremely healthy. I'm pretty detoxed. And again, as part of the iboga and ayahuasca, there's actually some purging that goes on. Yes. And so, I think that you can prepare for certainly for iboga by cleaning out your diet, stopping smoking, giving up alcohol, getting rid of junk food, juicing, far infrared saunas, colonics, lymphatic massage, all this stuff, so that your body is prepared to have this experience.
Yeah, very much.
And Kash Khan,
Mhm.
are there any negative side effects of ayahuasca?
When you say negative side effects, do you mean like lasting negative side effects or just during the ceremonies?
Either way.
Either way. So certainly during the ceremonies, you mentioned purging. So it's not by any means a journey full of rainbows and mystical experiences. A lot of it is dealing with your own demons, overcoming a lot of darkness and fear and anxiety. And for me, I purged a lot. So purging can happen in many forms. Most common is vomiting into a bucket. You'll also go to the toilet quite a lot. You be sweating, you could be yawning, you could be crying. These are all different forms of purging where you're letting go of all the years of trauma or emotional kind of baggage that you're holding and letting go of it, you know. My friend Jerry Powell, who runs Rhythmia, he says that when you're young, when you're a child, small instances like, you know, when you're in your bedroom and you're listening to music and your father comes in and asks you to turn that music off, you want to answer him back, you want to swear or shout, but you hold that emotion in. He said this is a small example when you want to kind of like swear or express anger, but you keep that in. So he goes, so that's when it starts from childhood. You're storing all these little balloons of emotion, and then as you grow older, these balloons get bigger and bigger, and there's bigger things that go on where you want to say something but you can't, or you want to express yourself but you can't, or people hurt you, and these emotions you're bottling them in. You're not expressing yourself. You're not living your true self. So you're kind of storing all this up, and this, you know, has to go somewhere. So when you're during a ceremony, I feel like all this stored up energy, bad energy or negative energy, it releases, and it releases in the form of purging. And there were certainly some nights I had in ayahuasca that were very, very dark. And like one night I had what's called an ego death. So like I would almost like get lost in another realm in my mind, and I was stuck in a time loop. So I kind of lost all track of who I was. I lost track of time. I forgot my name. I started to question whether or not my kids were alive because I was just kind of lost in this other realm. And then I even thought maybe this is where I'm going to be from now on, and that this life no longer existed, you know? So like, and whenever I remembered my name, it was almost as if ayahuasca said, no, that's not you, you're this, you know? It's like I became awareness. So I became aware of everything, but I lost the ability to think. So it was like a very hard, almost traumatic experience. And even at the end of the ceremony, I was confused for a long, long time. I was kind of crying. I found it hard to go to sleep. But it was the next day, when I woke up, I had to do an interview with Jerry, the owner of Rhythmia, and I found that the interview flowed freely because for some reason, I was speaking from the heart and I was connecting with him on a level I wasn't used to connecting to someone with. So I walked out of that interview feeling like, wow, why did that just happen, you know? And then as the day progressed, I felt like I'd been reborn, you know? So it was almost like my ego would die, you know? I was kind of put in my place. I was kind of reminded that this is what you are everything, you are the universe. You're not this body, you're just having an experience in this body, but that's not you, you know? So like that was a very hard example of what ayahuasca has as a hard lesson to learn for me, but a very important one. And then you can compare that to another night, which is just complete beauty and mysticism and like beautiful visions and dancing and music and happiness and laughter. So there's very different sides to ayahuasca, you know? It just depends on where you are and what you need. And the medicine, I think, gives you what you need when you're ready, you know?
Yeah, well said. And it
Thank
is
you.
definitely true. When the ego dies, the soul awakes, right?
Yes, yeah,
You
very
know,
much.
and when I do medical intuitive readings, again, I think so many people are disconnected from their soul because
Mm-hmm.
they're overly identified with their ego persona.
Mm-hmm.
You know, since we're talking about side effects, I know when I first did, you know, in the BOGA ceremony, for me, the first thing that happened was I started crying. And my
Mm-hmm.
favorite dog had died the year before, and I still missed her terribly. And even though I'd cried a lot about my dog, I was still like really, you know, processing that grief. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember thinking to myself, well, if I just keep crying, maybe I won't throw up. Well, then I threw up, and and but and then again, and then the visions began. But I know with the BOGA, the visions happened so quickly. It's like they happened about as quickly as you could snap your fingers,
Yeah.
like this, and you'd be shown, you know, lots of pictures. So and definitely receiving messages. Now, I feel very strongly as a medical intuitive healer that if someone does ayahuasca or iboga, they need to do it with a trained shaman.
Yes.
I did a medical intuitive reading earlier this year with a lady, and for some reason, she was in some place in South America, and somehow I think she had an argument with the shaman, and the shaman left, and she decided to do iboga anyway, and she had a really bad experience with it, and she processed um, some early childhood sexual abuse.
Mm.
So again, I feel strongly that people need to do it with someone who's experienced and trained and can titrate the dose to make sure that it's therapeutic but not too much for you.
Yeah.
So from what you know, Kash Khan, are there any individuals who definitely need to stay away from plant medicine?
Yeah, so well, 100%, I would say if you're on any kind of medication, especially antidepressants, you need to seek medical advice before you even consider doing a plant medicine. And that's a very, very important one, because you do hear stories of people doing ayahuasca and having bad experiences, and there's even been some fatalities. I heard a story recently in Amsterdam where someone was offering ayahuasca in a flat, and they were doing it probably for the wrong intentions. There was no medical advice. There was no kind of like psychological questions being asked. So you have to be very careful where you do it. Setting is very important. You're dealing with a very, very potent substance. So that's one of the reasons why I felt so safe at Ridley and Costa Rica, is because they have a medical team there, they have psychologists there, and they ask you questions about your health, your heart conditions. So yeah, if you're suffering from any heart conditions as well, I would also seek medical advice. I mean, you should basically seek medical advice always anyway, regardless, I think, if you go to do plant medicine. But those are the two types of people that I would say should avoid plant medicine, would be people who suffer from heart conditions and people who have antidepressants in their system, or any kind of medication. You could come off the medication first and then do the medicine, but make sure you're not on it, you know. Obviously, people who suffer from mental illness, the medicine would be good for them because it can help you deal with your mental illness. But again, just make sure that you're doing in the right place with the right people, and that you're speaking to the shamans and you're speaking to, you know, people with medical experience before you do it.
Yes. And, you know, I did an interesting medical intuitive reading recently where a gentleman had done ayahuasca, DMT, and another substance that escapes me at the moment. And he'd done all three together over a period of 2 days. And what happened to him was it literally ripped a hole in his aura. It was the largest hole I'd ever seen, both on the front and the back of his body, and negative spiritual energy attached to him. And he was growling and, you know, literally tortured. So again, I wouldn't recommend that people mix plant medicines.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and if you do them one at a time, and then allow literal months to go by. You know, it's 6 months minimum, I think, before you go into, you know, another medication or another drug. I had also done medical intuitive reading with a lady who's done combo, which is from frogs, who literally almost died.
Really?
Yeah. And, you know, on the one hand, she was kind of excited because it was like a new life in her perspective. But I'm like, you know, you literally almost died. And I don't think that the dosage was right. So again, it's not, none of these things are things you do by yourself. You've got to work with trained people and get medical clearance ahead of time. So, Kash, you talked about, you know, moving your family out of the big city of Glasgow. Why do you think and here we're talking about plant medicine and the intelligence of plants. Why do you think it's so important for people to live close to nature?
I think it's very important for a number of reasons. First of all, just mental health and general health. It's scientifically proven that to be around trees and grass and animals It stimulates chemicals in your brain and your body that improve your health. I mean, it's called earthing is a term they use for walking barefoot on the grass. So you'll never see people walking around barefoot in concrete, but certainly in fields, in forests, and in the beach, people walk barefoot all the time, So it's just really important to be in touch with nature from a health perspective. And I think also it reminds you who you are, where you come from, and how the planet is a part of us. You can get disconnected from nature when you're living in the city. Your mind gets consumed with things like media and fashion and TV. You're surrounded by alcohol, you're surrounded by drugs, you're surrounded by kind of a lot of negative energy. Whereas at least when you're in nature, there's less your environment's much more caring and loving. There's animals all around you. You feel like you want to take care of your body better. You feel like you want to take care of the planet more. You look after animals better. So it's just overall a better experience, a better living environment. And the cities are full of lots of very high quantities of people as well. So you've got so many different energies all congested into one small space. And I really feel like living in a space where you've got so many negative energies around you, or people who have low vibrational frequencies, that can have an impact on you as well. They done a study, quite a popular study, where I think it was like 1,000 people meditated several hours every day for a month or a week or however long it was, and they found that crime in that entire region dropped as a result, because people's energies can travel very long and far, So we can't obviously see that, so we don't give it much importance, but you being a medical intuitive will understand how energy can impact another, So when I'm living in a city, I'm quite empathetic. I'm always putting myself in other people's minds and hearts and imagining how they feel. And when someone's in a bad place, that can be quite harmful to my energy, So I think being in nature limits that risk and allows me to look after myself better as well.
Yes, and I know later today I'm going to my garden club, and I feel that gardeners, I mean, we're the original, people who love the earth, and, not just because we're beautifying, but we're literally nurturing our gardens, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Nurturing the soil, promoting oxygen, and uplifting everyone. So you've been listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. This is Kash Khan, CEO of Educate, Inspire, Change. You can find out more about Kash Khan and his wonderful work at educateinspirechange.org. This is Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 bestselling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. And remember that the intelligence of the plants is here to help us. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.